Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 299. Today we are continuing our series all about sensory challenges with an episode about getting that movement in for our kiddos who need the novelty and need the movement breaks on rainy days or otherwise crummy weather days when you can't get them outside. Lots and lots of practical, applicable things you can use right away in your homeschool and in your home in this episode. So you're definitely going to want to listen carefully to this one. Before we begin, I just want to give a special thanks, as usual, to CTC Math, our season-long sponsor. We appreciate them so much. If you need a math program, you cannot go wrong with CTC Math. Check them out at ctcmath.com and listen for a little bit more information about them later on in this episode. All right, pop those earbuds in and let's get on with today's episode. Hey there, I am so glad that you are here for today's episode. We're continuing our series on sensory needs for differently wired kiddos, and today is a very hands-on practical application of some of the things that we've been talking about. Before we really dive into it, though, I want to encourage you to head over to the show notes for this episode or go back and listen to the first 2 episodes in this series and check out the show notes on those pages so you can download the home sensory diet planner that we have. It's absolutely free. It is a planner that goes along with this 5-episode series all about sensory needs and what you can do to help your kiddos at home. And it's really practical, something that you can put into place right away. And then if you need a little bit more support with your kids and their planning, you can go back to our previous series that was all about executive functioning and download the executive functioning quick start guide that we have there as well. Both of them are free. Both of them are available on the website and on the show notes for the episode pages. They will definitely help you out and get you started on your way to having a sensory safe and effective homeschool. All right. So today you are going to leave this episode with a home setup for your kiddos on those rainy days, those days where you just can't get outside, and for when your kids still need their movement and you can't just let them go. When my kids were little, especially Trevor, who needed a lot of movement, I used to have him run or ride his bike around the cul-de-sac where we lived at the time. And it was just a godsend because he could run, he could ride his bike, he could ride his skateboard or his scooter around and around in circles. But there were days we just couldn't get outside. So we had to be practical and we had to use what we could and what we had at our fingertips inside. So we're going to talk about a home setup. We're going to talk about a no gear, like no purchase necessary heavy work menu that you can use at home with your kids when you're stuck inside. Some really short vestibular options, and then some kind of plug and play movement circuits that you can use within your home. And again, if you download the Home Sensory Diet Planner, you'll have some more activities at your fingertips. We also have a brand new product in the website, in the shop, called the Sensory Strategy Toolkit. And it is basically a deck of cards that you can print out at home, laminate, and save for yourself that has quick regulation activities that you can use at home. And there is a how to use this deck of cards information sheet that comes with it, and 6 different sets of cards that you can put together to formulate a big giant deck or keep them separate. Right now I have mine cut out and separate in 6 little baggies, separated by the 6 different sensory needs that our kids might have. So Vestibular Activities has a title card that talks about what the vestibular system is and when you would use those cards, and then has 23 different activities that you can use to help your kids with their vestibular system. And every single one of the 6 different sensory options has a an information card, and then 23 different activities. So as you can imagine, this deck is very full and it is available right now on the website. So I'll leave the link for that in the show notes as well, and you can check that out. Okay, before we get started, just like I've done the last couple of episodes, I just want to remind you that this is not medical advice. I am a parent and an educational consultant who has worked with kiddos who are differently wired, gifted, twice exceptional, many of whom have sensory needs, including my own kids, for years and years. So I'm giving you the information that I have and that I have developed through my own research. But if at any time any of the activities cause pain, dizziness, distress, or they don't feel like they're a fit, or you're not sure what's going on with your kiddo, I really encourage you to get evaluated by an occupational therapist or your pediatrician. Check with them. My favorite occupational therapist is Sarah Collins. You can find her at the Homeschool OT. She does consultations virtually and has a wonderful podcast and some options on her website. So check her out at homeschoolot.com. And there are past episodes where I have interviewed her. So I will link to those in the show notes as well, so you can get introduced to some of what Sarah says about sensory needs. All right. So why do those rainy days or those days that we're stuck inside feel a little bit extra? Without outside play or outside time, kiddos' proprioception drops, right? They need heavy work. They start fidgeting more, their attention dips, their vestibular system seeks novelty. So they might be like launching themselves on the couch. And does your couch ever feel like a trampoline, or your kids are like ping pong balls? You are absolutely not alone. Their nervous system gets under or over aroused, and then that leads to meltdowns, maybe in the late afternoon. Here's the thing. They're not misbehaving. They are underfed on their movement needs. And so when we feed the right systems on purpose, we help them be better able to adjust their needs so that they can meet them while they're inside. Their bodies are asking for big work. So we're going to tell them, okay, your body needs some of this work. So let's give it a few minutes. Let's do a couple of these activities, and then let's try to work on our math. All right, so let's first look at how we can make a safe space in just a few minutes within our home when maybe we don't have a big basement area or the opportunity or the option for unlimited space. We don't have a playroom. We don't have whatever we need for our kids to be launching themselves or moving, and we need to create it in a few minutes and with zero time to prep. Okay, so you want to clear as big a space as you can. 5 by 5 or 6 by 6 foot are ideal. You want to slide the tables back, the chairs out of the way, have kids take their socks off, or make sure that they have shoes or socks with grip. Tie back your curtains, secure anything that wobbles. Get rid of the fragile items in the area. So like, for example, if I were to do this, say my basement was off limits, if I were to do this in my family room, which we've done before, we'd slide our coffee table out to the other room and we'd push back anything that was breakable. One suggestion even that you could do if you need to create a boundary line is you could use painter's tape on the floor and create a square or rectangular space that your kids can be in. Make sure that your kids have water, they have a water bottle available, there's a visual timer, and then create a crash pad. Pile the couch cushions, maybe cover it with a duvet or a comforter on the floor, and talk again with your kids. We talked about this in the last couple episodes about their green, yellow, and red body check-in. So let them know that it's time to check in with their body. If they're feeling ready to go and get done with one of their activities, then their body is feeling green. If they're a little bit wiggly, they might be able to get some things done, but they're like fidgety, then their body's on yellow. And then if they're overloaded, they need to slow down or switch things up, they're in the red zone. So we want to give our kids the opportunity to check in with their body, see where they are, and then use this space with all of the couch cushions and comforters to get themselves back in the zone. You're going to let them know that, okay, here we go. We're going to take a couple minutes to get our brains ready to do our math. So your feet are going to stay on the floor until we say jump zone. And there's only one person allowed on the crash pad at a time. And then pause if I say check your color. Your bodies are your bosses. So if your body says stop, this is too much, stop and take a break. If your body says this feels good, then you can keep going. And then stand back and let the kids know, like one at a time. Okay, jump zone, let them jump in. take turns, crash in. There was a time we had a small, oh, was it Step 2 brand maybe, or Fisher Price plastic slide that we kept in the house, and we would pile cushions at the bottom of it, and the kids would just take turns going down the slide into the pile of cushions again and again until they were ready to focus. So you could create a super simple crash zone in your family room by doing something like that and then giving the kids a chance to jump in it, get their wiggles out, check in with their body, see if they need a couple more crashes before they get ready to do their work. Okay, most of our kids, though, do really well once they have some heavy work. They get that input to their proprioceptive system and are able to get some of their work done afterward. So, a couple things that you can do. First, remember why you do this. When kids who need proprioception work get heavy work, it organizes them, it calms them, it improves their focus. This is super safe to use as often as your kids need it, 2 to 5 minutes at a time, repeat as needed. Here are a few super simple things you can do inside with no outside materials in a pinch when it's a rainy day and you can't get your kids outside. They can do wall push-ups, 10 to 20 slow reps against the wall. They can do chair pushbacks. They're pushing the chair into a table again and again, maybe 10, 15 times in a row. They can do a laundry lug where they're carrying a full laundry basket to the hallway, maybe up the stairs, maybe they're pushing it or pulling it, maybe they're sorting socks. So they're also getting that tactile input. They could do a book stack slide, pushing a stack of books across the floor really slowly, intentionally, and carefully so they don't spill or topple the pile of books. They could do animal walks where they're walking like a bear crawl or a crab walk or frog hops. Or if you've got open space in your hallway, they could do laps around the hallway. My kids, when they were younger, loved going to my husband's cousin's house because their basement was this open area with stairs in the center of it, and they could ride scooters or roller skates around and around and around. This was really good for family gatherings when we had a bunch of little kids because they could get all of their steam off and then they'd be ready to do the gift exchange or whatever. You could do a towel tug of war with your kids. You could have them on the carpet with their knees down, so they're doing a kneeling tug of war so that they have that friction and traction. Or you could have them standing up if they can be careful and not fall into some different things. You could do a couch cushion squeeze. So have them in between two couch cushions with you like sitting or squeezing or pushing down gently on it, letting them know that they have autonomy and they can tell you when things are too hard, too soft, and what kind of input that they need. I remember one time, actually this happened a few times, back when we were in our old co-op before the pandemic. Logan, my sensory seeker, would often at the end of her classes go into the large rec room where they had a bunch of bean bags, and she would just lie on the floor with a heavy bean bag on top of her so she could get that deep pressure. It was so funny, and I would find her that way all the time. You could do door frame isometrics where your kids are pushing palms into the door frame for 10 seconds and then do 3 or 4 reps of that. And then your kids could also help you out with some chores. They could do vacuum or broom relay where they're doing functional heavy work. They're maybe vacuuming one section of the room and handing the vacuum off to someone else and then going and sweeping some of the linoleum in the kitchen and rotating through, pushing the heavy vacuum or sweeping the floors. So you could try a bunch of those kinds of things. Maybe either get the cards that we have in the sensory strategy toolkit that's online, or you can come up with your own cards or popsicle sticks. Just write these ideas down and put them in a jar so you can pull from them when you're trying to find some heavy work inside. Talk to your kids about it. Use some words that you use over and over again to remind them what they should be feeling. You could tell them, remember, go strong and slow. You want to feel your muscles working. Remind them that they're in charge of the pressure. Tell them, say stop, and I'll stop. Ask me to push a little bit harder or more gently, and I'll do what you need me to do. Or tell them, okay, go ahead and make 2 more laps, and then you can have a sip of water. Give them some feedback as you go so they are guided along the trajectory of what they're doing and can really do the check-in with their bodies so they know what they're feeling and why they're feeling it. Okay, we're going to check on our vestibular system now because our kiddos need that vestibular input as well. This is one that you want to use with care though. These are alerting activities, and you don't want to do them too often because they can dysregulate your kids if they're overdone. But they're really good for waking them up, getting them going if their brain feels sluggish. Maybe they're affected by the overcastness outside and their bodies just aren't getting going that day. You want to do 30 to 60 seconds and then pause, and then maybe add some of that heavy work we just talked about back in right after you do some of the alerting. Some of the indoor activities and ideas that you can use when you're using your vestibular system. They could rock in a sturdy rocking chair. It's slow, it's linear, back and forth, very rhythmic and soothing. For some kids, this is very alerting. They can do log rolls on the carpet or on a blanket where they're like rolling over and over again like they're a log. You can use painter's tape to create a line on the floor, or if you are lucky enough to have a balance beam, you could have them balance along the line, heel to toe, and be very intentional about how they're progressing along that line. Painter's tape works in a pinch and is really good if you've got lines on your hardwood or on your linoleum. You can use that. A balance beam is a great investment. We got one years ago from another homeschooling family whose kids had outgrown it, and I think we spent like $25 on it used. And it's a gymnastics practice balance beam, and we keep it in the basement. And it's really good for our kids who need to work on their vestibular system and balance and keep themselves in focus. You can do mini jumps in a marked jump zone in your house. They can do 2-foot hops, count to 20, take a break, do 20 more to get them alerting. I was watching a video, I don't know, a couple weeks ago about a person who had started, she'd read something about getting her system going and started doing 50 jumps in the morning. This was an adult. 50 heavy jumps, hard and fast in the morning, every morning before she even had her first cup of coffee. Was recognizing anecdotally after a couple weeks that she was more productive than she'd ever been before. And by the time she got down for her morning coffee downstairs, she almost didn't need it because the act of jumping hard and fast 50 times every single morning, first thing when she got herself out of bed, was so alerting. It got her blood pumping, rid of the brain fog, and she was ready to go. So it's a twist on that. I haven't read the research on that, but it fits with what I know about the vestibular system. And it's something that I've been, you know how you have that list of all the things you're planning to try. It's one of those things I've been thinking about, like just incorporating in my day. I was just talking to my son about this today. Another clip I saw online was Mel Robbins talking about making that one change, making the one decision. Like you're not one new habit necessarily away from changing your life. You're like one small decision. And her example was, historically, my whole life, I've pressed snooze on my alarm. And she said, one day I decided this was the day I was not going to press snooze anymore. And I gave myself 5 seconds to sit in bed, count to 5, and then get out of bed. And I make myself do that every single morning. And getting out of bed, not pressing snooze, isn't what moved me forward in life. It is what allowed me to build the other habits that moved me forward in life because I wasn't pressing snooze 5 or 6 times and lounging in bed and then getting up groggily. I was getting up. So this is one of those like small habits that I want to incorporate to get the rest of my day going. So we'll see how it pans out. You guys can check in with me in a couple weeks and see if I've followed my own advice. You could do a bear swing, have the kids lay on the floor on their back, put up their arms and legs together like in a triangle, like a bear hanging from a branch, or maybe like a sloth hanging from a branch, and hold them and gently sway them back and forth if you are able to handle that. You could also do this by putting them in a blanket and swinging the blanket like a hammock, or having them get into a hammock and gently swinging that. You can do a stair step, a 1-step up and down on your stairs, holding onto a rail if that's safe in your home and if that is something that works out. Or you can just simulate going up and down stairs. The rule of thumb is when you're using the vestibular system to get your kids alerted in the morning, linear movement up and down, back and forth, swaying side to side is preferable over spinning because oftentimes spinning can get your kids alerted, but then flip into the dysregulation phase. So if spinning happens or they start to get dysregulated or overstimulated, follow it with heavy work and maybe drinking water. Stop if they're dizzy or they get nauseous, and then remind them that you're going to do 20 jumps and then stop and check the color. Remind them to keep checking in with their body and seeing where their body falls on the green, yellow, and red scale.
Okay, so let's talk about math. Specifically, let's talk about finding a program that actually works for your unique homeschoolers. In our house, we've been using CTC Math for years, and even though I am so appreciative that they sponsor this podcast, I am a paying customer. I'm still a paying customer even with their sponsorship because it's just that good, and I love supporting great companies with great programs. With 2 kids still at home, both with very different learning needs, CTC Math has been the flexible and dependable solution that I keep coming back to. One of my kiddos needs more time to process math concepts, and I love that she can move through the lessons at her own pace without feeling rushed or behind. My other kiddo, he flies. He jumps straight to the end of unit tests to see what he already knows, and then we only focus on the lessons that fill the gaps. That kind of customization is gold when you're homeschooling gifted or twice exceptional kids. CTC Math gives you the access to every grade level, from kindergarten through 12th grade with your subscription, so that your child can accelerate, review, or jump around based on their own needs, not based on some rigid curriculum structure. And because it's video-based with clear instruction and auto-graded lessons and quizzes, it frees me up to support my kids without being chained to a textbook, teacher's manual, or whiteboard. So whether your child needs more time or is racing ahead, you can tailor it all with CTC Math. Check it out at ctcmath.com. You will see why so many homeschool families trust it. And if you've got quirky math learners like I do, I think you're going to love it. If you have any questions about CTC, like I said, we've been using it for years in our homeschool, and I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. If you do pop over there, let them know that I sent you, and let them know that you appreciate their ongoing support of homeschoolers everywhere, especially those of you here at Raising Lifelong Learners. All right, let's get back to today's episode.
You can also say to them, rock slow. When I say pause, hug the pillow. Roll slowly over and over again. Try not to spin, just gently roll back and forth so that you're giving them guidance as they're going. You're not just saying, hey, go over there in the corner and do some jumps. You're watching them, you're talking with them, you're reminding them to check in with themselves so that they're learning how these different systems and different activities affect their own bodies. All right, let's build kind of a 10-minute movement circuit. Your kids can do this the next time you have a rainy day. This is the time you can go back and listen to it. It'll be in the show notes where you can print out the pages in the show notes where it describes this so you can have it at your fingertips, or you can use that home sensory diet planner that you can download free over on the show notes to build this. You can also use the sensory strategy toolkit and pick out some of the cards and set it up visually like that. But you're going to create 2 to 3 stations, preferably 3, that are about 2 minutes each. And you're going to encourage your kids to take 1-minute breaks in between each of the 3 stations. So just if you were at a gym that did circuit training. So 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, and you're going to rotate through this 1 to 2 rounds. So maybe your first circuit is your calm and your focus circuit. So your kids could do 2 minutes of wall push-ups and then take their 1-minute water break. Or they could do 2 minutes of balancing on the line, heel toe forward and then backwards and then side to side for 2 minutes and then take a water break. Or you could use a Theraputty or Play-Doh and they're kneading it at the table or popping beads out of it for 2 minutes and then taking a 1-minute water break. And then after they do this, so this is like your calming circuit. If they do this, they rotate through that a second time. So wall push-ups, 2 minutes, water. Balance line, 2 minutes, water. Theraputty, 2 minutes, water. And then they can transition to their seat work or their math work or whatever it is within 2 minutes. Maybe your kids are struggling to focus and wake up and clear the cobwebs out of their brain. So maybe you try this circuit. This is like the wake up circuit. So they do 2 minutes of animal walks, like laps around the house, like a bear crawl or a frog hop, and then they take a water break. And then they do mini jumps, count to 20, rest, repeat. And they do that for 2 minutes and then take a water break. And then they end with a laundry lug where they're lugging the laundry basket up and down the stairs or across the hall for 2 minutes. And then they take a water break and then they transition into the work that they need to do. The third type of circuit you could try is the after lunch reset or the after activity reset. They do chair push-ups maybe for 2 minutes and then take a water break. And then they do log rolls to the crash pad and then maybe end with a pillow squeeze for 2 minutes and then take a water break. And then they end the whole circuit with a tug of war for 2 minutes and a water break. And like I said before, they can rotate through this again. 3 10-minute movement circuit options, the calm focus one, where they rotate through these 3 activities 2 times through the whole circuit. 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, and they go through it. So wall push-ups to the balance line to putty or Play-Doh kneading. The wake-up circuit, animal walks to the mini jumps to the laundry lugging. And then the after lunch or after activity reset, chair push-ups to the log rolls and crash pad and pillow squeeze to the towel tug of war. And then you talk to your kids about it. Okay, we're going to do each station for about 2 minutes. The timer's on. And then we sip water and we check in with our bodies to see if we're in the green, the yellow, or the red. And then we go to the next station. And then we do the same and we go to the next station. So you're talking them through it as you go. I'll have these 3 circuit options written out in the show notes for this episode. So you can check that out at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. And then look for the episode about movement inside on rainy days. All right. Next, I want to talk about some games that we can play with our kids. So maybe our kids are resistant and they're like, I don't want to do circuits. Are you crazy? That's just silly, Mom. Maybe we play some games. We're tricking them into regulating their bodies. So here are a few games that feel like play, but also give our kids the input that they need when they need it. So the heavy work edition of the floor is not lava. So you're going to tape stepping stones around your floor, or if you have the stepping stones that you can get online, maybe this is something that you invest in as a Christmas present, or you just put pillows on the floor. These are your stepping stones. You want your kids to carry a heavy stuffed animal from A to B, maybe using bear crawl only, or maybe they're doing a crab walk and they're balancing the stuffed animal on their belly and they're going from stepping stone to stepping stone. So like floor is lava, but instead you're just having them cross the pathway from point A to point B with their heavy stuffed animal. You can do a hallway sled. My kids used to love this when they were little, and we lived in a house that was all hardwood floors. You have your kids sit on a beach towel or a blanket and have an older sibling or a parent pull them slowly for 30 to 60 seconds and move them down the hall like they were riding a sled, and then you could switch it. The sock match dash. Here's a little sneaky way to get some of your laundry done in the process. Scatter your socks and have your kids crab walk to the socks, pick one up, and then crab walk to its match, bring it back to you, you fold it, you put it in the basket while they go get you another match. Or have one of the kids folding while the other kids search out the matches. You could do card flip fitness. Wow, I'm giving myself tongue twisters. Draw a card, do reps that equal the number on the card. So you're going to get a standard deck of cards. Hearts are going to stand for wall push-ups. Clubs are going to stand for frog jumps. Diamonds are going to stand for chair pushes, and spades are going to stand for balance steps, or whatever you want to label each of the 4 suits. And when you draw a card, say you draw the 10 of hearts, they're going to do 10 wall push-ups. And then you draw the 3 of diamonds, they're going to do 3 chair pushes. And so you're going to flip a card and they're going to do whatever is associated with that card. Easy game you can create using just a deck of cards. Same type of thing, but you can use a die. You're going to use the dice builder, roll 1 to 6, and pick moves from a list to build a silly circuit together. So have your list out or your home sensory diet planner and have each one labeled with a number, and then have them roll a die and then pick one of the activities to do with that corresponds to that number so they can build their own circuit with it. Some of the things that you can say to your kids when you're playing these games to keep them motivated, keep them going, you can have maybe a sand timer or a visual timer and challenge them to beat the timer. Maybe if you're doing like the sock match game, you can have them choose their own challenge. Do you want to do a crawl or a crab walk for this one? And then let them know that you stop when it's still fun. You want to make sure that you're not going until they are completely done and just don't want to do it anymore. You want to make sure that they're still engaged in the activity. You want to make sure that they're still engaged in the activity so that they haven't lost their interest and they're still bought into it. Okay, some of the challenges that we might face, specifically related to the different profiles that our kids might have. So, say you have an ADHD kid, your kiddo is maybe very novelty seeking. You want to make sure you rotate up the circuits regularly. Use countdowns, beat the sand timer games, have visual checklists, use games regularly because that's going to really help them buy in because it speaks to their need for novelty. Maybe you have a kiddo who is autistic or otherwise rigid in their thinking. Maybe they really like things that are the same and they like to know what's expected. Do the same sequence every day. Have photo visual cards. Maybe the first time you do a circuit, you take pictures of them doing the circuit. So then you can post those pictures and they can recognize exactly what they're doing every day. Use consistent timing, use consistent tools so they always know what to expect. We want to really respect our kids' need for schedules, for sameness, and for understanding. Maybe you have a kiddo who's anxious or has some dysregulation when it comes to not knowing what to expect. You want to have low demand. So you could ask them, do you want 1 more minute of pushing against the wall or 1 more minute of balance exercises? You can offer opt-outs and exits so that they can co-regulate with slow breaths and pressure. Maybe your kiddo has sensory needs, maybe they're tactile sensitive. You can choose firm input for them where they're doing like wall pushes or carrying things instead of messy things like putty or Play-Doh. You could encourage them to wear soft clothing. You could avoid tags during play so that they have less tactile input to go at war with their need to settle down and do their work. If they've got some kind of learning challenge like dysgraphia or dyslexia, you can pair pre-writing with heavy work like chair pushes, and then you scribe the first line for them, and then they write one. You can read with oral motor sips through a straw. So they're reading some and then taking a break to drink yogurt or a smoothie through a straw. Maybe you have a small space or you are in an apartment or a condo that has neighbors below. Do quiet heavy work, isometrics, pushing against the wall, carrying things so you're not doing a lot of the jumping. Balance lines, couch squeezing. Just skip the jumping, skip the stomping so that you can regulate, but you're still respecting the people who are living below you or the fact that you don't have a lot of space. If your kids are getting wilder after the movement, add heavy work immediately after any kind of vestibular input. Shorten the dose, switch to a calming circuit. Maybe they won't join in. They don't want to do what you're suggesting. Give them a couple choices and a timer. Okay, we're only going to do things 3 minutes here. You choose between these 3 activities. You tell me what feels good. Do you want to do 1 minute of pushing or pulling? Do you want to do 2 minutes of jumping, crashing, or skipping? Start together, do a body double with them where you're doing exactly what they're doing. Maybe they're too hyped up to learn afterwards. Include like a therapy or a calming station and a water station, or maybe like a minute of quiet music to re-regulate them. Maybe their siblings have opposite needs that they do. So you can do opposite circuits. One is on a crash pad, one is on a balance line, and then swap when the timer goes off. If at any point they feel headachy or dizzy or just it's not jibing with them, switch, stop. Switch to something that's non-vestibular, switch to heavy work. And then again, if these things aren't working out for you, consider seeing an occupational therapist or your pediatrician for some more support. Okay. So here's what you're going to do this week or the next time it's rainy. Clear a 6x6, zone if you can, tape a balance line on the floor. Pick one 10-minute circuit, either A, B, or C, and then run it as you're going. And you can even do this when it's not rainy so you can get used to it. post the menu that has 2 heavy work and 1 vestibular ideas for your kids, and then use the green, yellow, and red check-ins so that you know how things are affecting your kids, and so do they, and then change it up as needed. If your kiddos can adjust, if your kiddos can begin their work, their schoolwork, their focused work within 2 minutes of the last activity, this is working out well for them. This is a good option for them, and you don't need to adjust. If at any point it's not seeming like it's working out, okay, so try it for 7 days. I would actually encourage you to try that idea of creating a circuit, giving your kids a chance to test it out, and do that for the next several days, even if it's not raining, so that the next time it does rain, you know what kind of works for your kids. And again, the measure of success is when you have noticed that your kids can start working within a couple minutes right after you finish one of those circuits. Don't forget to head over to the show notes for this episode and download the free home sensory diet planner. It gives you, I can't remember exactly, 5 to 8 different activity ideas for each of the 6 sensory needs: the vestibular that we talked about, proprioceptive, visual, tactile, auditory, oral motor. And so you will have a sampling of ideas to jog your memory if you don't have this episode handy or you didn't print out the show notes. And if you want more or you need more, or some of these things are working for you and you want to keep the learning and the ideas of sensory challenges going in your home, check out the sensory strategy toolkit that we have in the shop. And you can print your own set of cards to help out as you plan the different ideas for your kids to do. Okay, next week, we are going to focus on eating. We're going to focus on the sensory needs that relate to eating, including picky eating, texture, meal times. We're going to talk about sensory first solutions without power struggles. So really focusing on what we can do to help our kids when they struggle with eating, whether it is textures, whether it is just the times of the day that meals happen, or they're just picky. So if you know somebody who maybe doesn't listen but could benefit from this episode, the whole series, or next week specifically with the eating, please forward on the podcast to them and encourage them to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Leave a rating or review. It really helps the algorithm push the episodes out and the podcast itself out to other people who could benefit from it, and I really appreciate your support. If you are a member of the Learners Lab and you're testing out creating your own circuit for your kids to do before they get going in the morning, I would love it if you'd share your photos, your experiences, your ideas inside the lab so we can all benefit from it. I'll go over and I'll start a thread for rainy day activities so that we can all help each other out, maybe help each other come up with activities that work or a circuit plan that works. If you're not a member of the lab, you can go over to the website, raisinglifelonglearners.com/lab, and you can learn all about it. It is a great community for families who are homeschooling differently wired kids. We have activities every single month focused around a sensory or a social and emotional theme, or an executive function theme, a theme related to things that differently wired families struggle with. And the kids go through, they have the opportunity to participate in a couple different live classes and live clubs. And then we have a forum for parents to talk about the different things that they're dealing with throughout the month. 24/7 open forum for families. We also do some group coaching, and we have support for each other in that place. And it is way less than the price of one class, and you get the opportunity for your kids to participate in multiple classes, meetups, and clubs throughout the month. So I would love it if you would join. You don't need a diagnosis. You just need to know that your family needs something more, and we can discuss some more of these sensory strategies within the lab. So check it out at raisinglifelonglearners.com/lab. I'd love to see you. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great week. Enjoy your kids, love on them. Special thanks to CTC Math for continuing to support us. and enjoy your week. We'll be back same time, same place next week with that episode all about eating. And I look forward to seeing you then. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.